Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katerina is away tonight. This is CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Tonight, we'll take you to the deadly earthquake in Turkey and hear about local efforts to connect with loved ones near the epicenter. Plus, the multi-billion-dollar proposal to fix healthcare. Ontario says it's confident a deal will be reached to ease pressures on the healthcare system. A prominent Indigenous community member says City Council needs to reconsider its appointment to the all-white police board. And we'll watch a local man play some beautiful tunes on a trumpet that's been sitting in a fruit cellar for more than 80 years. The number of dead has climbed to more than 11,000 in Turkey and Syria after Monday's earthquake. That number is expected to rise further. Today, a push for donations as people here in Windsor, Essex try to connect with loved ones back home. The CBC's TJ Deer reports.
The Turkish-Canadian Cultural Association of Windsor, Essex is appealing to local residents to help Turkish residents that have been affected by Monday's earthquake. For one association member, though, his priorities are more urgent.
Dinçer Kizachuk has family members in Turkey. They're in Adana, which is just 200 kilometers west of the epicenter of the earthquake.
I try a couple days, I can reach them because I have a telephone number, cell phone, so I'm going to try today.
This afternoon, the local Turkish association announced they're coordinating relief efforts with the Canadian Red Cross, who announced that the federal government will be matching donations from Canadians up to $10 million. They'll be hosting an open house over the weekend in an effort to get more donations from the local community.
We are going to mostly handle the monetary contributions, and anybody can donate to the association. Just write down Turkish Earthquake Relief Fund on the check.
Aktas said it's important people donate because the needs of those that are affected by the earthquake will be long-term. He also mentioned the association raised funds for an earthquake in 1999, and they're looking to surpass that total this time.
Aktas added that more boots on the ground won't make a difference due to logistical issues, but he said that the initial donation by the federal government is welcomed, but more is needed. TJ Deer, CBC News, Maidstone.
And our reporter Chris Brown is in Adana today, where a local man's family lives in the story we just heard. It's an area that's received little to no help, and desperation is growing as survivors watch time slip away with so many still buried in the rubble.
How could anyone survive this? Our CBC News crew watched from close by as Turkish rescuers in the city of Adana risked their own lives navigating the treacherous ruins of a 12-story apartment building to ensure no one was missed. Every so often, they called out for silence and listened, thinking that maybe there was a cry for help. Another time, someone said they heard an iPhone ringing from the ruins.
There's a franticness to this work. The sense here is that there still could be, as incredible as it sounds, people alive under that mess. And just a moment ago, there was a call out for a blanket, meaning that someone's been found.
Tragically, it was not to be. By late afternoon, the mood had shifted, more somber, more grim. These steelworkers had devoted themselves to finding survivors. In the morning, we had a little hope, but now we don't have any, he said. Nearby, family members of the missing tried to keep warm as they camped out, praying for news. They asked us not to take their pictures. The scale of this destruction is too big, said a neighbor. 20 buildings collapsed here in Adana, fewer than in other cities, but that hasn't mitigated the fury that many feel, especially towards Turkey's government, for tolerating the corruption that many now blame for this. The contractors who are stealing the raw material for construction and the mayors who let them do this, they're guilty, he said. There were dozens of apartments in this building, all full of families and life. The hope for a miracle among the ruins has just about run out. Chris Brown, CBC News, Adana.
Here in Windsor, we've been following the debate over the location of a drug consumption and treatment site closely. But it begs the question, what if it didn't have a fixed address at all? CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa explores whether a mobile site could be an option.
The local health unit had predicted that finding a permanent home would be the most contentious and challenging part of the process. And they weren't wrong. Debate over the location of Windsor's drug consumption and treatment site almost derailed the project last month. But while downtown councillor Ronaldo Agostino moved to scrap the city's support, he suggested having a mobile unit. They're operating in other cities across Canada, like British Columbia and Quebec. So why not here? In Winnipeg, Manitoba, this is a mobile overdose prevention site.
This worked for us because this is what the community and the people that we work with at Sunshine House expected. So it can't be something that a politician is just like, oh, I think that we should do it this way because, you know, it's more comfortable for Joe and Cindy who live in the suburbs, when really that's not who you're catering it to.
People can use substances in the RV. They can also get access to harm reduction supplies or connected to social supports. Here in Windsor, people were most in favor of a mobile and fixed consumption and treatment site. Survey respondents said mobile can help identify areas where the service is needed the most. But Michael Brennan of Positive Pathways said that while he's not sure how other mobile sites are doing, he questions how proper wraparound supports can be provided and can foresee gaps in consistency, accessibility, and possibly increased stigmatization from the community. Yet an outreach worker here says that mobile would be more ideal.
I don't know if that many people are going to come here to use it. When they want to get high, they want to get high. They're not looking for a location. They're at the location where they're getting high.
Foy says having a mobile unit really depends on the city and its needs.
There's all these things that you have to take into consideration. You know, is there a broad network of social services that people can tap into? What does addictions and treatment programming look like outside of this type of stuff? How are these systems going to engage with one another? What's your public transportation system look like? What's your employment and income assurance and assistance programs?
While advocates say that mobile sites can meet people where they're at and cover larger areas, Foy says that cons include not feeling as though they are fully integrated into the community and the weather. He also agreed that accessibility and providing wraparound supports is a challenge. But Sunshine House's van is the closest thing Manitoba has to a permanent site. Their best advice? Listen to the community, sincerely and intentionally. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
We're hearing from Premier Doug Ford and his health minister tonight on the promise of billions of dollars in federal funding for healthcare. As Lorenda Redekop reports, there's concern about the timeline for the cash and whether some areas of the healthcare system are getting enough.
I'm confident we'll get the T's crossed, the I's dotted.
Premier Doug Ford back at Queen's Park after yesterday's meeting in Ottawa. He says he expects a deal will come, with the federal government adding an extra $46 billion in healthcare funding over 10 years.
We want sustainability. We need certainty moving forward, not just for a few years, 5 or 10 years, but decades to come.
Ontario's health minister, at an announcement at a hospice, says that longer-term funding is important for projects such as adding more medical schools. She also pointed to one area where she expected more.
Well, frankly, I was a little surprised that there wasn't more focus on community care and home care. To me, it is a very natural place for that patient experience to be improved.
All right, so just relax for me.
These talks are happening as roughly 2 million Ontarians don't have a family doctor. The Ontario Medical Association wants internationally trained physicians already here to be licensed as one shorter-term solution, and digital healthcare improved.
We know that if all the doctors in Ontario could save 1 hour per day of paperwork, we could see about 1 million more patients a month.
Speaking on Metro Morning, former federal health minister Jane Philpott called yesterday's announcement underwhelming.
The premiers and the prime minister could have said together, we are going to enter Medicare 2.0.
She hoped to see things like wait times addressed, ensuring everyone has a family doctor, and a larger overall vision for healthcare. As for the talks that are still to come between the province and the federal government,
I hope it's about things like training more nurses, training more family doctors. I hope it's about things like improving our wait times. We'd like to know that those conversations are visionary and not simply about dollars and cents.
The next talks will take place tomorrow here in Toronto. Health Minister Jones and Premier Ford will meet with the Federal Minister of Health as well as the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
There's more criticism tonight over the all-white Windsor Police Services Board. Now, a prominent Indigenous community member says City Council should reconsider its public appointment to the board. Beverly Jacobs is a member of Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. She's also the senior advisor to the University of Windsor's president on Indigenous relations. Last month, City Council appointed Sophia Chisholm to the police board, adding to an already white board. Police boards have big responsibilities. They hire chiefs and deputy chiefs and set policies to ensure an effective police service. Jacobs says this is a very serious issue because Indigenous people and diverse voices are missing from an important governance role, especially since there's an overrepresentation of Indigenous people and people of color within the justice system, which starts with police.
It's serious because everything has been white. Systems are white. Colonial systems are white. University systems are white. Police systems are white. Colonial law is white. So the more that people can understand the privilege that they've been in those positions, even positions of power like that, to understand that there's shifts that need to happen because it can no longer be white. So that's what governance is all about, is establishing good relations, and that's the big task of healing the relationship between Indigenous people and policing.
There's new provincial legislation called the Comprehensive Ontario Police Services Act that hasn't come into effect yet. When it does, it states all municipal boards must be representative of the diversity of the population in the municipality. CBC News asked if the mayor was aware of this when he supported council's decision and if he's reconsidering that choice. The mayor's chief of staff told CBC in an email that new legislation allows council to expand the police board to 7 or 9 members. Those additions, though, would be councillors or provincial appointments, not a civilian picked by council. But Camille Armour says council's decision was a missed opportunity.
No matter how well intended or articulate a white person is, they can never inform on issues that affect Black and brown people better than a Black or brown person. There's so much said about, Windsor is one of the most diverse cities in Canada. But if there's no inclusion, then it doesn't matter.
In other news, police confirm 2 children are dead, 6 others injured after a city bus crashed into a daycare in Laval, north of Montreal.
The bus driver, a 51-year-old man, employee of the STL, has been arrested for careless driving and homicide.
Dozens of police and emergency vehicles lined the street leading to the daycare after the incident as distraught parents arrived to try to check on their children. The suspect is facing charges of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and aggravated assault. Witnesses say several people had to subdue the driver, who they say emerged from the bus naked and disoriented before his arrest. We're heading to Saskatchewan now, following up on a story that brought home the need for organ donations. Last summer, the CBC Saskatchewan Bureau did a story on a woman who desperately needed a kidney transplant, and it attracted national attention. The Saskatoon woman began advertising for one using her car, and we've learned she's found a perfect match. Bonnie Allen has more.
Hello there. Hello. Nice to see you. Good to see you again.
Brent Kruger and Debbie Onashenko are still getting to know each other. They were strangers last August when Kruger decided he'd like to give Onashenko one of his kidneys.
I am just so elated and so excited about all of this. It's really starting to sink in now.
Last summer, Onashenko became desperate for a kidney. She'd been living with diabetes for decades, and suddenly she only had 9% kidney function. So she made a bold appeal plastered on her car with her blood type and the words, "Share your spare."
There are just so many people on the waiting on the donor list right now for a deceased donor that my chances were not that great.
She shared her story with several media outlets, including CBC News, and it caught Kruger's attention.
I talked to God a lot, and it was one of those things where it was almost like a light shone down from heaven.
Kruger is one of 5 strangers who agreed to get tested.
From the beginning of September to the middle of January, they probably took 40 vials of blood.
And it was during one visit to the hospital for some of that testing that Kruger and Onashenko finally met in person by accident.
And all of a sudden he yells out, "Debbie!" And I recognized his voice, and he said, "It's Brent!" And we just ran to each other and hugged.
And now, finally, the good news. Kruger is a perfect match.
First of all, he wrote me a poem, which was so amazing.
I said, roses are red, violets are blue. I have a kidney, and I'll give it to you.
At first, it didn't click. And then all of a sudden, this is real. And I was just crying, and his wife was crying in the background, and we were all excited. And I just said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, God."
They're waiting for a surgery date. Kruger encourages others to explore organ donation to change or save a life. Bonnie Allen, CBC News.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News at 6, a special weather statement telling us about some heavy rainfall. We'll tell you when and how much coming up right after the break. Time now for a live look at weather. Nick Sternkovich joins us now for more. Nick, I hear there's some rain in the forecast, quite a bit of it.
Yeah, actually a little bit more than just some rain. It's about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain expected. Special weather statement in effect for the Windsor area and actually all of southern Ontario, really. And this is with a fairly strong system, and it feels weird to call it a winter storm. I mean, technically it is, but it's going to feel more like spring. Rainfall event for pretty much everybody. Very gusty winds as well with this. Let's get right into it. There are freezing rain warnings in effect. Those are further to the east. We've also got some wind warnings along the north shore of Lake Erie. Those are also further to the east. However, just because we're not seeing the warnings here, they might be just below the warning criteria, but we're still looking at some very gusty winds across all of southern Ontario, including the Windsor area. Just some cloud cover starting to push in right now. Forecast-wise for tonight, round about the midnight hour or so, it starts to move in. We've got a few showers across the board, and then heavier rainfall. Now, most of this is actually going to come through the overnight period. By about noon, it tapers off to showers, and even before that, and then a few isolated spotty showers in the forecast. That's really all we're looking at here for tomorrow. A few flurries, or the chance of a few flurries as we head into Friday, but generally just some cloud cover. Rainfall-wise, we've got totals that are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 to 25 millimeters. I think 20 is a pretty good number. That's quite a bit for this time of year. Doesn't meet warning criteria, but still a good shot of rain. Most of this, again, for the Windsor area, coming from about midnight or so to sort of the mid-morning hours tomorrow. The other factor we got to consider here are the winds. Now, the winds start out easterly, and they kind of switch over as we move into the afternoon. So there's a look at the morning. Easterly winds anywhere from about 40 or 50 kilometer per hour gusts. Then as we move into the afternoon, they switch to a southwesterly direction, and we've got wind gusts that are going to be in the neighborhood of about 80 kilometers per hour. Gusts over 90 would constitute a warning in this case. So it doesn't look like we're quite meeting that criteria, but we're pretty close. In terms of the temperature, sitting now at 3 degrees, that is still above the seasonal mark moving through the overnight period tonight. They hold generally steady. And then as we head into tomorrow, we've got double digits again, 11 degrees, but rainfall. Now, most of that rainfall coming through sort of the early morning hours, and then it transitions over to just some scattered showers. Windy conditions in play. Then the temperatures drop. Mind you, they stay above zero right through the 5-day forecast period, but certainly not the double digits that we've come to see over the last, well, 2 days ago and then tomorrow. Yeah.
A lot of rain in the forecast. Nick, I mean, it is what it is. We didn't really get much of a sledding season, so hopefully the snow will come back.
Personally, I'm hoping for that too, but I don't know.
We'll see. Okay, thanks so much, Nick.
You bet.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News, we'll hear that 1942 trumpet and learn more about how it was found in that fruit cellar after 80 years. That's coming up. A local trumpet player got the surprise of a lifetime recently. An extremely rare trumpet that had not been played in over 80 years was discovered in a Michigan fruit cellar. Friends in Michigan alerted Windsor's Russ Macklem about the trumpet, and he wasted no time going over to investigate. And CBC caught up with Russ recently to see and hear the trumpet's story.
Anybody runs into a case that looks like this, as soon as you see this badge, you know you've got something pretty special. Not only something very special, but something that's worth quite a bit of money too. And this is what it looked like when I opened the case. This guy's grandfather had lived into his hundreds. He had played trumpet only for, as far as I could gather from this guy, he'd only played trumpet for a few months in 1943. And they decided to buy, I guess, the finest trumpet available at the time, which would have been a Martin Handcraft Committee. And they bought it for him, and he played it for about 3 months in high school, and then put it in the case, and then it sat in a fruit cellar for 80 years. This guy's grandfather was a bit of a pack rat, so he had a ton of stuff in the house. He had cars, everything. But this gentleman, his mother, actually wanted to throw it away. He just said, "Oh, that old trumpet, just throw it away." And this is an instrument that's worth thousands of dollars. So I guess where it was stored, and conditions were basically as perfect as they could be. The fruit cellar seemed to have like a very low level of humidity. So the case itself, usually instruments you get that are this old, and I've had many old instruments over the years, the cases are usually ruined, they stink, they're full of mold. This case was not. So the case isn't also as mint a condition as you can imagine for something that's 81 years old. The instrument itself, I just needed to put some valve oil on the valves and they just came to life. I can't imagine there's any more than half a dozen like this left kicking around North America. These instruments were famously played by so many great trumpet players. Miles Davis played a Martin Committee for his entire career. Dizzy Gillespie, Freddie Hubbard, the list just goes on and on. Beyond its monetary value, there's no instrument made anymore that feels like this or sounds like this. But it's rare to see something like this that is in actually like mint condition. Like brand new condition that pops up. First cool thing is this original warranty card, warranted against defects in material workmanship for 50 years. So warranty was up in 93, I guess.
An update now on our top story tonight. Canada is sending a team of experts to Turkey to help following the earthquake. The Canadian Disaster Assessment Team is heading there right now. They'll be able to assess the situation on the ground to find out what Canada can do. That could include sending a response team, but no decision has been made at this point. Turkey has issued a broad request for help, and that's why the team is heading over. It's a handful of people expected to report back in the coming days. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and check us out on social media as well, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is coming up next. Have a great night.